Croeso Channel Blaid Llwyd. It's time to return to By Your Hands. And if you remember, we left it in the middle of a day last time. So let's finish off that day. And maybe we might learn some more about what happened to Tucker. Maybe. The rest of the day continued on from there, pretty much the same as they had on my first day of college. First, biology, a pretty easy course, especially after being raised in the lab complex, but I could still appreciate getting a taste of the very basics. And then jazz band. I still wasn't sure if practicing fine movements and breath control were really as necessary as the research team insisted, but it was a lot of fun. And once again I was free for the rest of the day. Once again I made my way back to the much quieter, if not deserted, history building. Once again I stood outside of Brandon's office door. There was still some time left before 3, so I pulled my phone out to check in on Camille and Connor. First to Carcaden. "Hey man, you doing alright? I haven't seen you all day." No reply. Well, he was probably busy. I could check in on him again later. I just left Connor. "Hey man." "Hey, what's up?" "Nothing. Just wanted to see how things are going with you." "Pretty okay. Gotta run some errands for Uncle Cooper again though. Probably gonna be just hanging out with you later." "Sorry." "Hey, it's alright. Got a pretty big gap in my schedule tomorrow, so we can meet up and hang out then." "Like 11:30ish? "Sure, sounds good to me." "What's the plan then?" "Oh, Rex." I looked up my phone and there he was, just the orca I'd been waiting for. "Owen, hey, how's it going?" "It's going alright. I was just going to talk with Mr. Baker for a bit." He looked from me to the Bison's closed office door, then back again. "Were you going to talk with him too?" No. Actually, I wanted to talk with you for a bit, and..." I gestured to the darkened office. Mr. Baker actually had to leave earlier. Said he'd be gone for the rest of the day. He had to go and pick up his son. Owen just looked nonplussed at that. "Oh. Okay. He's going to be here tomorrow though, right?" "I don't see how he wouldn't be. But I could swing by around this time. We could hang out for a bit either way. Either after you two meet up or if things don't work out again." "Okay, I'd like that. I like hanging out with you." "And I like hanging out with you, man." Before I realised what I was doing, I already clapped the orca on the shoulder and gave him a light, playful jostle. He'd flinched at the initial contact, but after a moment he let out a quiet laugh and gave me a small, shy smile. And even after he stepped out from under my hand, he took another step right back towards me to stay close. "So, before he left, Mr. Baker actually asked me to ask you something." "He did?" "Yeah. It's about what happened yesterday." "What about it?" I looked at him, just a little taken aback. He just looked right back at me, expression nonplussed, if not a little confused. "Well, okay, how can I approach this? I guess after you walked in on us, Mr. Baker just got a little worried you might have thought something inappropriate was going on." "Inappropriate?" "I mean, the two of us meeting up together and all that, alone in his office." He furrowed his brow. "That's how me and him meet up. What's inappropriate about it?" "When you put it that way, not much, I guess." "I've just been overthinking it all. I mean, since no one else really goes to his office because it kind of smells, you know?" I watched his face carefully, looking for any shift or flinch. If he didn't see anything inappropriate, he had to have noticed the scent of two adult, healthy, aroused males filling a stuffy, enclosed room. Another shrug. Either he's really, really good at acting nonchalant, or... I don't have a sense of smell. Orca. Owen tapped his nose. Or the top part of his snout, I guess. So I don't know how his office smells. Oh, well... I'm glad there wasn't any misunderstanding then. A deep breath in, holding it, counting silently in my head, letting it leak out in a quiet, sheepish laugh. Well then, I guess that's it. You got any more classes for the rest of the day, or...? No, but I do need to get home. Alright then, guess I'll see you tomorrow, yeah? Okay. Again we both stayed still, neither of us wanting to be the one to turn and walk away first. Hey Owen, speaking of tomorrow, Mr. Baker was actually talking a bit about, all three of us hanging out together sometime. Would you be up for something like that? The orca looked at me, biting his lip, blushing. Then finally gave me a warm, eager smile. I think I would be. So, yeah. That's about how it went. I see. It was later in the evening. I was back in my room and lying on my bed. I'd already rinsed the day's worries and cares off in the shower. After grabbing a bite of dinner and spending some more time studying for the next day's classes and checking in with Dr. Abraham after he'd arrived from the main lab, I texted Brendan. That text had turned into a phone call. Greetings exchanged along with a few mild pleasantries. Then the Bison had asked how things went with Owen. A nervous quiver in his deep bassy voice, a quiet clearing of his throat both preceding and following the question. And I'd answered, relaying the conversation I had with the orca. The end of the line remained quiet for a while after I finished. I shifted, repositioned myself, trying to get the tension gathering between my shoulder blades stretched and eased away. Finally I heard a heavy sigh. I guess I was worried over nothing then. Still, it's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah. I am grateful to you for meeting up with him and talking about it. And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot like that. Hey, it's fine, really. I'm happy to help. I don't want to make things awkward with Owen, either between me and him or you and him. Yes, I'm grateful for that as well. Still, I should probably have a conversation of my own with him tomorrow. He does deserve it, after all. I don't want him to feel like he's being pushed to the wayside. Doesn't seem to me like he feels that way. But yeah, talking would probably be good. Hey, like you said to me and I said to him, maybe all three of us could get together sometime. Oh no, I'd like that. And I think it would be very good, yes. Tomorrow, maybe? If it doesn't interfere with whatever conversation you two have, sure. Maybe I could drop by a little bit after 3, give you guys some time to talk. Yes, perhaps. Then the Bison cleared his throat. I guess for now it's beside the point. What matters is the situation is all cleared up. Honestly, it's quite the load off my back to know there won't be any trouble from what happened yesterday. I don't really think there would be, but, well, you know. Yeah, I know. So, how about you? How'd things go with... The sound of a heavy gust of breath on the other end of the line. It went well. Everything's alright. And, again, I'm sorry for having to run off. I have to have a quiet, brief laugh. Again, it's fine, really. I'm glad everything's alright. Yes. Are you alright? You sound a little... This shifted into my position on the bed, with the majority of my focus on the movements. I'm fine. Just surprised, I guess. Didn't know he had a son. Well, I do, yes. Huh. He really was that old, wasn't he? It made sense, of course, considering. Well, I guess hadn't really struck me until that moment.
Rex, are you sure you're alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? You have a son. You're a dad.
Yes, that's typically what that means.
I rubbed my face with my free hand, trying to get the thoughts whirling around in my brain in order. Finally, I just blurted out the first one that clawed its way to the whirling, roiling, raucous pile. It's kind of reassuring.
I'm sorry, what?
The scales across my snout were burning under my rubbing hand. I swallowed hard and breathed in deep, forcing myself to get the words together. Just, I don't know. It makes sense, since you're so kind and helpful and understanding and all that. I could feel tension squeezing around my throat, forcing me to trail off into a quiet murmur.
I see. Well, I'm flattered. I'll be the first to admit I'm far from perfect, but... You really think so?
Well, I see. More hemming, more whoring. A few grunts and murmurs near the end of the line. I could easily imagine the way his expression would be shifting, eyes darting around if we were in the same room together.
I suppose it'd make sense for you to feel that way, given your circumstances. Oh. Rex.
I cleared my throat, only to distract myself from the fluttering in my chest and the roiling in my gut. Sorry for making things awkward.
Oh no, don't apologise. You don't have anything to apologise for, alright? I understand. Really, it's alright.
The genuine warmth in his voice eased away the tension better than any breathing exercise could. Of course, that allowed the thoughts which had been whirling around in my brain to untangle themselves. One in particular started prickling at me, and I just had to voice it, if only to get it out of my head. Hey, Brendan, could I ask another awkward question?
Well, we've already gone this far. Go on and ask anyway.
Are you married? Brendan?
Sorry, that just caught me off guard.
Another grunt, another gulp, another clearing of his throat.
I used to be, but I'm single now.
Oh. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite alright, really.
I could hear him letting out a quiet, slightly strained laugh.
I mean, other than our taste in TV shows, we haven't really done much talking about ourselves.
Huh. That was true, wasn't it? Sure, we talked about how this mentorship thing would work between us, and sure, Brendan knew at least a little bit about my circumstances. But beyond that, what had we really talked about with one another? What did we really know about one another? Yeah. Must have let some of what I was feeling come through in my voice. Brendan hummed, low and thoughtful, and let out a polite cough.
But that just means we'll have to take the opportunity to talk even more, since we are mentor and mentee and all. I mean, we did only just meet, 2 days ago?
Right. Somehow that didn't make me feel as good about it as the bison seemed to have hoped.
Well, that means that these things take time. We can take it one day at a time, right? Half steps.
That was a little more reassuring. I guess, yeah. As I contemplated Brendan's words, the bison swallowed and spoke up again.
So, what is an interest in my marital status?
I shrugged my shoulders and forced out a weak laugh of my own. Well, you really are an attractive guy, so I guess it wouldn't be surprising if you were.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Silence fell between the two of us, just a little bit awkward, but not all that uncomfortable. It only broke when I had to suppress a sudden yawn, and Brendan let out a soft sigh and huff.
Well, listen, it's getting late, and we both need to get our rest. I'll see you tomorrow, alright? We continue this conversation then, and take things from there.
Alright, sounds good to me.
Oh, good night, Rex. Sweet dreams.
More heat pulsing in my face, another flutter in my chest. You too. Good night, Brendan.
With that, we both hung up.
I just lay there on my bed for a while, breathing in and then out, feeling a small smile curling the corners of my mouth upward. And when it was time for the lights out and I burrowed under the covers and curled up to sleep, I actually did have some pretty good dreams. Dreams of warmth and safety, and a certain bison professor. Freshman Experience. That's what my first class that day was called. It was a required course for all first-year students, meant to help us develop the academic skill to participate in curricular and co-curricular activities in a multi-generational community of learning. So, getting us to learn how to learn, or something like that. And what happened to Tucker had already set us back in that department. After welcoming us for what should have been our second day, Professor Reed made sure everyone knew about the announcements from the previous day's morning classes. Then, looking vaguely annoyed there was even a necessity, she'd done her best to get us caught up. The plan apparently had been to start with discussing how primaries, secondaries and apexes all interacted with each other, how each of them fit in their own social niche, and how those social niches affected one another. How they thought about themselves, how we all thought about ourselves. After that, we'd have been assigned a short essay, just 2 pages, double-spaced, 12-point font, on our own life experience and our social niche. Those essays were then exchanged on the second day of that class with someone of a different social niche, and our assignment would have been to write a personal commentary in response to the one we were given to read. Since that plan had been derailed, however, we were going to do the writing in class, exchange essays at the end of class, and have our commentary response things ready to be turned in next week. Easy. Or maybe not so much. I stared down at my open notebook, slumping in my seat. What exactly was I supposed to write? Sure, I'd interacted with plenty of primaries and secondaries at the lab complex, Camille's family as well as Corey's uncle for starters. I knew I was different from them, knew that very well as a matter of fact. But how exactly it felt to be a predator, and an apex one at that, well... I sighed, tapped the empty line page with my pencil, tried to think of something, anything to write. Not exactly, of course, but close enough. Grew up in a diverse, though somewhat isolated community, having to watch myself around my non-predator friends. I wouldn't even have to play down my ignorance about how things are outside the lab complex all that much. Yeah, I could make that work. With that, I started writing. Once I put a few words down and the notebook page wasn't taunting me with its blankness, it's pretty easy to get myself into a good flow. Putting the thoughts in my head into more and better words. Putting those words down on the page as well. One sentence, then another, and another. Well, that was one paragraph down. All around me I could hear the students working on their essays. The scratching of pens and pencils on paper. The occasional cough or idle murmur. From the road directly in front of me, a pair of animals chatting with one another. Saw it on the news last night. Pretty fucked up, eh? I clenched my jaw, trying to think of the right way to word what I wanted to write down. Yeah, another one. You guys talk about that guy they found downtown. Uh-huh. Creepy, right? Especially after what happened the day before yesterday. Ed had a quiet grunt of frustration, scribbled a couple of random lines in the margin of my notebook. Then with another huff I raised them. Just found his body this time, right? Yeah, please don't even know who it is. I said he might have been a rhino, but... Don't you three have something working on instead of gossiping? Yes, ma'am. Sorry. I sighed, set my pencil down and kneaded the bridge of my snout, right in the corners of my eyes. Took in a deep breath and then let it out slowly. I was almost done with my essay. Just needed a few more lines to finish off. Just needed to focus. Focus. I couldn't focus. As quietly and discreetly as I could, I shifted in my seat. Coughed to clear my throat while leaning forward. Hesitated, almost sat back and forgot all about it, but forced myself to speak up. Hey. The beaver sitting in front of me to my right turned his head. Yeah. What was that you guys were just talking about? He stared at me for a long moment. The ferret sitting in front of me and to my left turned to look back as well. Right, do you want to know? I shrugged. Didn't hear about whatever happened downtown last night, so I was curious. The two mammals glanced at one another. The ferret shrugged, then the beaver spoke up in a quiet voice. Some guy's murdered last night. They found his body in the middle of the park downtown. Just his body. He drew a finger across his neck. Oh. I see. Kind of like what happened to Ducker, right? Except like the opposite. The police are even looking into whether they're related. So that's his value curiosity? We kind of need to get back to work here. Alright, yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. The ferret turned away, hunching over his desk. The beaver gave me another glance before doing the same. I sat back in my seat, trying to let out a too heavy of a sigh, and resumed writing my essay as well. Trying to focus. Trying to think about Tucker's murder and now the possibly related murder of someone else too. Professor Reed gave us a 10-minute warning towards the end of the class, telling us to wrap up if we were still writing. Then 5 minutes before sending us off, she told us to find someone not of our social niche with whom to exchange papers. So I tore the page with mine of my notebook, scrambling mentally to think up the best way to approach someone. I caught movement over the corner of my eye. The beaver in front of me turned to the ferret sitting next to him. Apparently the ferret already exchanged essays with the buck sitting to his left. So he turned to his right, only to find a horse sitting there. He craned his neck to look behind him, and he locked eyes with me. Quickly turned away. Hesitated, glanced back at me again, and cleared his throat. Hey, you exchange essays with anyone yet? Not yet. Well then, you wanna... He waved a torn-out notebook page at me. Oh, sure, here. We traded papers with one another. He still looked unsure, so I tried to give him a closed-lipped smile while glancing at the header of his essay. Thanks, Lucas? No prob. Took a look at the top of the page in his hand. Rex? So, yeah. He turned back around in his seat. That seemed the end of that interaction. Not quite as smooth as how things had gone with Owen. Yes, I still needed to work on the whole cultivating the social life thing. But hey, I'd already managed it before. Just needed to keep at it. With that, class came to an end. On to the next one. Yeah, just checking in. Hey, I'm scared of the comp. Are you still up for hanging out? Got you by the fountain. Good for you? Sure, sounds good to me. See you there? Yeah, see you there, man. Hey, question real quick. Have you heard from Camille at all recently? No, haven't heard from him. Something up? Nah, just checking. Anyway, see you soon. I sighed, still staring at my phone screen, at the thumbs up Colin replied with after the last message, while trudging down the sidewalk. My thumb swiped across the screen, switching over the messages I'd sent Camille. Still no reply. Honestly, I was starting to get all worried. The Cargadon had never been that radio silent before. Something happened, either with Wyatt or the rest of the football team. They'd been talking so much about it they needed to figure things out now that Tucker was dead. Yeah, that will happen to Tucker, right? Except like the opposite. Police are even looking into whether they're related. I was quick to send off another message to Camille. Hey man, just checking in. Are you alright? Deep breath in, slow breath out. It's probably nothing. He's probably just caught up in stuff with his other friends who'd reply whenever he got the chance. Or maybe he's still in class and couldn't reply. That was probably it. Said it might have been a rhino, but... Rex? Oh, come in, Rex. I did not let out a quiet yelp as I was jerked out of my thoughts. Connor was staring at me, brow furrowed in confusion and concern. The rooster slowly pulled his hand away from my face and lowered it to his side. You good, man? Yeah, just, thinking. I should probably watch where you're going. I almost walked right into the fountain. Oh, right. Thanks. Right, seriously, what's going on? He reached out, setting his hands on my tense shoulders, leading with his fingers. Inching forward a bit to look me right in the eyes. That day in class? Stomachache? Someone's try starting shit with you? Just tell me their names and I'll... No, nothing like that, I shrugged. I just haven't heard from Camille all day. I'm freaking myself out a little bit over it. Oh. He stepped away, brow furrowing once more. Probably just busy at the football team. Yeah, that's what I thought too, but I don't know. Shifting from foot to foot, trying to keep my jaw from tensing too tight. Looking over to the fountain, then to one of the benches near it. Connor gestured for me to sit down and I took the invitation. As soon as I plopped down on the bench, he leaned over to let his bicep press against my own. His hand settled on my knee. His presence did wonders in helping me to calm down. Oh, Rex, out with it. What's got you freaking out, huh? Did you hear about that murdered guy who was found downtown? He sat back, blinking. They blurted out the thought which had been prickling at the back of my mind since freshman experience. Why? With a low growl of frustration, I rubbed at the crown of my head and down the bridge of my snout. I don't know, apparently people think he might have been a rhino, but that if they aren't sure because his head was... And, Carcadon looked pretty close to rhinos physically. Camille has me... Whoa, slow down! Again he grabbed my shoulder and gave it a firm leading squeeze. I get it. You're overthinking this. I mean, what would Camille even be doing downtown anyway? Well... I want people at the lab have noticed if he went missing. That was a good point. Camille did need to buzz himself in and out of the lab complex, just like I did. If he hadn't returned the night before, then there probably would have been an uproar in the morning. I didn't really interact with the researchers much outside of tests and examinations and stuff. I'm sure I've heard something about it. Another squeeze. Come on, deep breath. It's alright. Everything's alright. A deep breath in, filling up my lungs. A slow, steady breath out to blow away all the tension and anxiety. Alright, thanks. And sorry for, Yeah, don't worry about it. He jostled my arm with that usual bright, beaming grin of his. Oh, why don't we get your mind off it? Anything you want to do? Anywhere you want to go? His knee bumped against my own. Pressed against it. Started rubbing. Maybe go someplace private to relax. What about the cameras, though? Very sure they're still in the process of putting them up. Don't want to miss our chance, right? Well, I'm kind of not feeling it after... Then the rooster laughed and knocked his shoulder against mine. I'm joking, relax. Even as I huffed and rolled my eyes, I couldn't stop the heat from spreading across my face, nor my lips from pulling up into a reluctant smile. So? Yeah, well... Again I brushed a hand over the crown of my head. You want to grab an early lunch and just hang out until 1? Got biolab at that time. Sure, sounds good to me. I guess they'll setting things up for the dining hall though, so... Student centre? If he'd rather not leave campus. He hopped to his feet and brushed himself off, then turned to clap me on the shoulder. Let's get going. Right. We set off together, him leading the way, if I didn't really need it anymore. Connor seemed to take his job as my tour guide pretty seriously. Glancing at me every so often to make sure I was keeping pace. Throwing the occasional bit of light-hearted banter to keep the mood up. And I appreciated it. I really did. Still, I couldn't stop darker thoughts from prickling at the very back of my mind. Things in the student centre looked like they'd settled into an equilibrium. Other students were coming and going, laughing and chattering, gathering together to take a break from their classes. Neither a large crowd packed into the lounge area, filling the air with the dull roar of dozens of different voices, nor tiny groups huddling together in stunned near silence. Just a normal day on campus. Only a few security guards posted here and there to keep an eye on things, acting as a reminder of what had happened. Connor and I made our way over to the restaurant. Halfway through the seating area, I stumbled to a halt. Stared. Finally blew out the last of the tension in my shoulders, chest and jaw in a heavy sigh when I caught sight of Camille sitting hunched over at one of the tables. Hey, see? Camille's fine. Nothing to worry about. Now come on, let's grab. Hey! I lifted a hand to wave the carcadon while making my way over. Oh. Salam, Rex. How's it going? It's going. You can't have been worrying me, man. Been texting you since yesterday, but you never texted back. Huh? You have? He pulled out his phone, unlocking it and swiping through it with a thumb. Then he winced and looked back up at me. Sorry, been super busy with the football team and all that. Well, to have some free time to hang out with me and Connor. I gestured to the rooster as he moved up beside me. Maybe get something to eat since we're all here. Sure, gonna get in line and get something a little bit anyway. Oh, let's go then. There were only 1 or 2 other students ahead of us, other animals who'd had the same idea to get lunch early, or maybe this was the only break they had in their schedules. Either way, all 3 of us were able to quickly grab some food, pay, and return to the carcadon's table. A veggie burger for Camille, some chili fries, vegan, for Connor. Considering who I was sharing a meal with today, I thought it best to grab the popcorn shrimp again. Then we all took our seats and dug in. Camille coughed, cleared his throat and took a large sip of his drink. Connor bounced his leg while poking at his fries with a plastic fork. So, you said you're busy with the football team, Camille? Yeah. Get a new team captain chosen, all that since Tucker's, Again, he cleared his throat. Liam ended up stepping up, and he's been running us pretty ragged trying to make up for lost time. Good for him. And then there's Wyatt too. Right, yeah. Sorry I have to deal with all that. Camille just shrugged and chewed a mouthful of his burger. Then he swallowed and poked over with a tiny, strange smile. How about you? You holding up with, everything? Yeah, just trying to focus on getting through my classes and all that. Good. That's good. I did kind of freak myself out a little bit after not hearing from you, but it's nothing major. Oh? Yeah, you heard about some guy getting murdered downtown the same way that Tucker was, and yeah. Oh. Ramzali, now I really feel like an asshole. Oh, sorry. It's fine, really. The carcadon grunted, sighed, looked from me over to Connor. How about you, man? Yeah, keeping a little quiet over there. Yeah, just feeling a little tired out myself. Work stuff. You're still working for your uncle? Yeah. Wait, you are? I turned to look at the rooster as well. He swallowed another mouthful, took a sip of his drink to wash it down, and nodded. Yeah, started up his own maintenance business a couple of years back. Been helping out, doing odd jobs and stuff, Oh, well, that answered that question. Cool. Glad you keep you busy, man. Yeah, trying to, at least. I popped a few more pieces of shrimp into my mouth, chewed, swallowed. Tried to think up something to break the silence. So, when's your first game, Camille? Gonna be a couple of weeks. I'll make sure the newbies are up to speed and the guys are ready to crush it. He chuckled through another mouthful of his burger. And gotta make sure we do Tucker proud, Yeah. Well, let me know when it's happening so me and Connor can be there to cheer you on. You wanna be there? Well, yeah, of course. Right, Connor? As he swallowed down a few more fries, Connor nodded. Yeah, could be fun. Is your dad going to be cool with you staying out for it? Well, me going to college is all about developing my socialisation, right? Should probably get the full experience. True. Well then, alright. Gonna make sure to score at least one touchdown, especially for you. The Karkadan reached over to clap me on the shoulder with a wide, beaming grin. We continued to chat while finishing off our food, going back and forth, wandering from topic to topic. And it was nice, if a little awkward at first. Finally hanging out with both Connor and Camille again felt good. By the time I'd start getting ready for my lab hour, all three of us were laughing and joking around together. Like all those years since Connor and his uncle had left the lab complex hadn't happened. Just like things used to be. The rest of the day passed pretty quickly, for I knew it was time once again to head up to Brendan's office. As always, the history building seemed to be pretty much empty around that time. Only one security guard watching the entrance, who gave me a nod as I passed by. The door was propped open when I reached it. I could hear low voices coming from the inside, Brendan's pacey rumble, Owen's quiet murmuring. It was later than I'd arrived the last few times. They were probably in the middle of their usual meeting with one another. I knew I should probably just wait outside for the pair to finish up. Didn't want to interrupt, especially if Brendan was having that talk with Owen he'd mentioned the night before. But I shook that thought away and leaned against the wall. Pulled my phone out and occupied myself with one of the few apps Dr. Abraham had allowed me to put on it, a puzzle game to train critical thinking skills. It's actually pretty fun. It's a pretty good way to pass the time too. Not so focused on it, didn't even notice Brendan call my name until he gave my shoulder a gentle poke.
Rex?
Oh, Brendan. Mr. Baker. I cleared my throat and took my phone back into my pocket. How are things going?
They're going very well. Owen and I were just finishing up with our conversation.
He turned to give the Orca a nod and a warm, reassuring smile. The Orca nodded in return while getting to his feet, then gave me a quick glance. Though he shifted from foot to foot, looking like he wanted to duck his head in embarrassment, there was a smile on his face as well. Oh, yeah. Good. That's good then. So, everything's all good?
Oh, yes, indeed. Although there's one more matter to address before Owen heads off.
The bison looked from me to Owen and back again, his expression growing a little playful, maybe a little nervous as well.
There's a new exhibit that's opening at the museum downtown next week.
I could already tell where he's going with that. It's not a prehistoric exhibit, is it?
No.
He cleared his throat and flicked one of his ears a few times before continuing.
It's actually about some of the Proclivity World herbivore nations. Their lives and culture and all that. I wanted to check it out, see if it's something Cameron would be interested in for taking him next Saturday, and, well, the more the merrier, right?
Sure. The Orca winced at his own outburst, but nothing kept the smile off his face for long. He shifted from foot to foot, almost squirming in excitement. That sounds like fun. I have to check with my parents, but I'd really like to go, yeah.
Excellent. And how about you, Rex?
Spending the time with both Brendan and Owen. Well, that sounded like exactly the thing we'd be talking about doing sometime, didn't it? I think I'd be up for that, yeah. I almost asked who's Cameron, but didn't want to spoil the moment. Something for later, maybe.
Well, it's settled. I'll keep you boys posted. We can all figure out the best day to go together.
Okay. That sounds good to me. That tingling flutter in my chest as I looked at Brendan. That warmth I shared a smile with Owen. I couldn't get enough of that feeling. Like I was just a normal animal spending time with my mentor and a new good friend. That warm tingling feeling stayed with me as we said our farewells, Owen heading out while I waited for Brendan to gather up his stuff. Stayed with me throughout the ride with Brendan back to the lab complex. Lasted all the way until I arrived back at Dr. Abraham's house. A deep breath in, slow and steady, as I glared at the thing which had ruined my good mood. I was sitting on my desk in my room looking almost innocent, Familiar, enough so to only draw a heaved out sigh from deep within me. Embarrassing, especially after I glanced over the scribbled note stuck to the brown paper bag next to it. Need a fresh biosample of some tests I'll be running overnight. Please provide and hand over when I arrive this evening. Dr. A. I crumpled up the note and tossed it in the trash, then took a look at the specimen cup to see what kind of sample the researchers needed. And there it was, plain as day on the label. Rex A. Ejaculate Sample 18B. Another sigh. I understood why I needed something like that, to ensure endocrine and gonad health and sperm viability and to track general development and well-being. I'd heard it all before over the years, but never heard anything about Connor or Camille having to ejaculate into a cup for the researchers to run tests on. Well, complaining won't get it over and done with. I definitely have to take a shower after all that, both to wash off the sweat of the day and get rid of all those pheromones pouring off of me. As I stepped into the bathroom, my thoughts turned to how I should spend the evening. What I should have for dinner. What I should occupy myself with until Dr. Abraham arrived. Maybe some studying or some homework. Could always get started on reading Luke's essay for that freshman experience assignment. Or maybe I could finally start watching some of those shows Brendan had been recommending. At the grunts, I turned the shower on. I had plenty of time to think it over into the hot, steamy, refreshing water.
Reach an equilibrium between the gatherers, those who foraged or even grazed, in order to find their sustenance, and the hunters who preyed upon them. Of course, both groups continued trying to find ways to get an advantage over one another. Competition for resources is one of the oldest, most primal struggles of any species, whether primary, secondary, or apex. It's also one of the driving forces around advancement, whether cultural or technological. Can anyone give me an example of those advancements from back then? Come on now, people. We spent all of class last time reading about this. How about you, Rex?
I sat up in my seat and met the bison's gaze. Well. The gatherers started growing their own food?
Good, very good. What advantages did that bring them?
Well, for starters, they didn't have to wander around looking for food and open themselves up to being hunted down. They could find a safe, defensible place to settle and that encouraged cooperation between them. They could also feed a large amount of people, so they could start making larger settlements to gather in, keep their children safe and store the food they made.
Oh, exactly right. The different groups continue to push one another to develop more and better strategies for survival. Today it's called the Neolithic Revolution, the very beginnings of what would become the society we live in today. Thank you, Rex.
I just gave him a tiny nod and sank back into my seat. Cooperation. Finding one spot to defend themselves from Roman hunters. Made it even more difficult to... And that was enough of that train of thought. A few of the other animals around me glanced my way. To feel their eyes on me, hear a couple of murmurs. It wasn't quite as bad as I thought it would be. I was just a student answering the professor's question. That was all. To be honest, that smile of approval from Brendan had been nice. He'd said it himself. Even with being my mentor, he wouldn't be able to help me out with class stuff too much. I had to take responsibility for studying and keeping up on my own. Well, not totally on my own. He'd have a study buddy to help keep me on task, as Conrad put it. But still, I wanted to perform well in the Bison's class. I wanted to earn his approval and make him proud, I guess. Though I'll have to admit, it's a little hard at times to not get distracted. When he turned away moving down the line of desks, I could see the curvature of his rear strained against the taut fabric of his pants. Every gesticulation as he spoke strained the buttons of his shirt, too. Time and time again he glanced back over at me, whether to make sure I was listening or just by happenstance, I couldn't really tell. I was very eager to look back at him, meet his gaze, listen to the bassy rumble of his voice as he continued the lecture. Were his slacks always that tight around the crotch? I shifted in my seat, trying to get a better look while also being discreet about it. The shape of his bulge was standing out a lot, especially as he paced back and forth. Long, thick, growing longer and thicker by the moment. I glanced to my left. I glanced to my right. Didn't think anyone else had noticed. Either they were focused on the lecture or otherwise preoccupied. But I had definitely noticed. And when we locked eyes once more, heat burned across my snout. Brendan finally noticed it as well. He grunted and cleared his throat. Turned around, moved over to the whiteboard and wrote a few things down to hide his crotch. Moved behind the podium before speaking up again. Ears flicking, a hint of red visible under his ear fur. He said the rest of the class, even after dismissing us.
Can't believe I allowed myself to. You think anyone else noticed?
I don't think so. At least, I didn't notice anyone noticing. Despite my best attempt to reassure him, the bison groaned and buried his reddened face in his hands. We were alone in his office, having lunch together again. The door was propped open, allowing a bit of air circulation, and keeping things from being too private. I cleared my throat, glanced towards the doorway, and then leaned forward in my seat a little. Would it be alright if I asked what caused it? He let out a heavy sigh, peeking out at me from between his fingers.
Well...
Another sigh. He dropped his hands into his lap, clasped them together, fingers squeezed and rubbing against one another. Ears and tail flicking as he bit his lip and looked away.
I'm not sure myself. It just sort of happened.
With a quiet snort, he turned and took in a mouthful of his salad. Chewed and then swallowed. Hummed, grunted, furrowed his brow, then squeezed some more dressing onto it.
Oh, I'm going to be honest here. Although maybe I shouldn't be.
Come on, out with it. What's on your mind? You can talk with me about anything, you know. Mentor-mentee confidentiality. I got a laugh out of him at least. The tension in his shoulders visibly relaxed as he gave me a small half smile.
Very sure that isn't how that works, but if you insist.
Again his eyes darted down to his salad, then over the door, then over to the window.
I may be a little distracted.
Aye. He took his sweet time chewing his next mouthful before finally answering.
You.
Me? He glanced over, flat front teeth digging into his bottom lip.
Yes. You did good with your answering, class. Nice to have someone actually responding, I guess. Oh, don't get me wrong, that is my baseline expectation for you.
Of course. I nodded. What's that got to do with it? He sighed.
Well, I guess I've just been thinking about all the stuff we've been discussing lately. And it, well...
I'd have to take a sniff of the air to realise where he's going with that. Got you worked up?
Yes.
I felt heat surge across my snout as I sat back in my seat, doing my level best to keep my eyes on his face. I see. You have any way to take care of it? I mean, if it gets you feeding like that during class, then... A heavy sigh from the bison.
Oh, I do, yes.
I cleared my throat, shifted in my seat, drew his face down to the takeout box in my lap. Fish sticks today. I took a few bites of my lunch. Chewed. Washed it down with a gulp of my drink. So?
So, what?
So, how'd you deal with it? The sounds from his office. The huffing and panting and groaning. Oh. It was Brendan's turn to clear his throat, gaze drooping down to his desk. Wandered into one of the lower drawers, flicking over the doorway. So that's why you were...
Yes.
Another bite. Huh. Out of curiosity, how often do you... He grunted and gave me a stern look.
I don't think that'd be appropriate to talk about here.
Right. Sorry. In quiet sighs, he slumped into his seat.
I do make an effort to not get caught. That's all that really needs to be said about that.
The office chair creaked underneath the bison's bugs. He leaned forward to pat my knee. I mean, are you sure?
Well, I'm very sure. It may be an issue sometimes.
Another grunt.
I'm a grown man. I've got plenty of ways to handle it.
He looked down and off a little to the side, swallowed, shifted, and swiveled in his seat, let his knee bang up against one of the drawers in his desk, then glanced back up at me.
Keep it from growing into too big of a problem, you know.
Literally? I couldn't help myself. He'd practically given it to me on a silver platter. And it cut the tension in the air better than any other comment or reassurance I could make. He sat back, let out a quiet laugh, and shaking his head once more. Let out a few chuckles of my own while doing the same. Seriously though, if what we've been discussing is enough to get you like that, then...
Really, Rex, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Another warm, reassuring look from the bison.
You just worry about keeping up with your studies, okay?
Okay. We settled into companionable silence. Brendan finished off his salad while I popped the last few fish sticks into my mouth.
So,
He looked up at the clock on the wall.
you've still got some time for your next class, right?
Yeah, that's right. Why? His ears flicked, a little bit of red showing through the velvety fur inside them.
Would you like to go somewhere together?
Wait, do you mean... My heart fluttered in both surprise and anticipation. Like a date or something?
Well...
The bison let out a tiny flustered laugh.
Wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
After a long moment of hemming and hawing and hesitating, shifting his seat with a nervous energy surprising for a male of his age, he cleared his throat and spoke up again.
I just think it might be good for us to stretch our legs instead of just continue to sit around here.
Get some, His nostrils flared, his tail flicked.
Some fresh air.
Oh, sure. You want to just, walk, or... A shrug.
Is there anywhere particular you'd like to go?
I hummed, sipped the last of my drink, holding it in my mouth, I thought. Swallowed, then gave the bison a shrug of my own. I mean, maybe. It's kind of silly, though.
Oh, I'm all ears.
Deep breath in, slow breath out. Alright, so I've kind of always wanted to go to a library. There's the records room back at the lab complex, of course, but I've never been allowed in there. While there's also a reference room, all the books in there had been way above my reading level. I know where the campus library is, but I haven't really spent much time there. Well... As I trailed off, looking away and shifting in my seat, the bison laughed. Light, gentle and companionable, reassuring rather than scornful.
I see. Well then. As your professor and as your mentor, it's my duty to help you achieve your academic goals, right?
He tipped me a wink and I felt a smile tugging at my lips. Yeah, I guess so. With a grunt and a squeak of protest from his office chair, the bison heaved himself to his feet.
Well then, come along. To the library.
Couldn't help but let out a tiny chuckle at his dramatic declaration. But off we went, to throw in our trash in his wastebasket. The fresh air did feel pretty nice when we walked together, and Brendan was right. Getting to stretch our legs a bit was better than just sitting around. As we walked, Brendan told me about the library in the city. The large marble statues outside, the small collection of artwork inside, the wide and varied selection of material to choose from. Reference books, literature, magazines and videos, and CDs and anything else you could think of. He said the campus library's collection wasn't nearly as expansive, but I imagine it would be a good place to start without getting overwhelmed. I asked him if he'd be up for taking me there sometime. He said he'd love to. Could even help me get me a library card so I could check out anything I wanted. Back and forth, light and casual. Our conversation wandered from topic to topic. Suggestions for books to help me study, a recommendation of a series he enjoyed, his thoughts on this or that genre. Just a student talking with his professor. Just a professor showing his student around, pointing out materials for class, making sure I knew where everything was. That was all. Huh.
Something wrong?
The bison was a pretty good tour guide, I had to admit. While it felt like no time at all, he'd shown and explained pretty much everything in the campus library had to offer. The rows of computers and printers, the copying machines and paper cutters, the conference rooms and out-of-the-way tables for reading and studying. I half expected to catch sight of Owen in the same spot Corin and I had found him a few days before, but no luck. Brendan then proceeded to lead me along the aisles of bookshelves, showing me how they were laid out and organised. The medical section, biology section, psychology section, history, art history, civics, business and economics, engineering and architecture. Scientific journals, research papers, records and omnibuses. But Where are the books?
Right, here?
He gestured to the shelf. No, I mean like the books, like the ones you recommended.
Oh.
He tried to laugh at least. Weissenstein clapped me on the shoulder, patting with a careful, measured weight.
Well, the campus library is mostly for students to study and do research for their classes. So there aren't really normal fiction books in the catalogue, per se.
I had my shoulder squeezed, thinking if I could let my disappointment show too much.
But I think I know the next best thing. Come over this way.
Together we moved down the end of the aisle, along the rows towards the literature section.
Let's see, it should be around here somewhere. Ah.
The Bison reached out to grab one of the books off the shelves and handed it over to me with a broad smile. The Tragedy of Odell?
Yes, it's kind of more literary in that series I told you about. It's always been a personal favourite of mine.
Didn't think he was the kind of guy to be into tragic stories.
The tragedy part is not really what I focus on. I just think it's a really good story. Says a lot about the sapient condition and all that.
Huh. I looked from Brendan to the book and back again, cracked it open and flipped through a few pages, scanned over the lines. It's written kind of weird.
It's a very, very old story, and that's just how they wrote back then. But it's got little notes in the margins that put things in plainer terms, see?
I did indeed see. I didn't really get how figs was supposed to be an obscenity. Alright, well, if you think I should read it, then I'll give it a shot.
I'll be very interested to hear what you think. Let's cover the plays by the same author, Happier Ones. They're really famous too. If you to catch up on modern culture, it might be good to start you with some of those.
Well, hey, learning more about the world outside in the lab complex was always good. Mind pointing them out?
Of course. Let's get started on What You Will, and work from there.
We spent the rest of my lunch hour looking around the library. The sciences building was nearby, so it wasn't like I had to rush. When I did head off, though, it was with a smile and a pat on the back from Brendan. That made the rest of the day go by a little easier. I kept my head down, my muscles tense, my eyes focused on the screen of my phone. Deep breath in, slow breath out. Concentrate. Think. There was a pattern, a connection to find. I just needed to put it together, move the pieces into place, with a little bit of good timing, and it would all make sense. Nope, I had nothing. With another sigh, and maybe a tiny growl of frustration, I looked up from the puzzle that had been giving me trouble for way too long. Again, Brendan offered to drive me home. Of course, I jumped at the chance to spend more time with the Bison. However, he told me he needed to run some errands beforehand. So there I was, standing near the sidewalk leading to the parking lot, waiting for him to pick me up. A few other professors passed me on the way to their cars, but I got more than a few glances and polite nods from them. Luckily for me, the north parking lot technically wasn't off limits to students, so it wasn't like I got any trouble for being there. Still, kept my head down whenever one of the security guards patrolling the area would wander by. Just passing the time. Checking a few of my texts. Replying to one from Connor. He and his uncle were taking some family time over the weekend, but maybe we could hang out sometime the coming week. Owen was in a similar situation, but if we wanted to start meeting up after his sessions with Brendan, he'd be interested in doing so. Of course I accepted. It would probably be the perfect time to get together and study for a while. After that, I poked and prodded at the puzzle game I'd been working on for a while longer. Grew frustrated again, tucked my phone in my pocket and just let my thoughts wander. Finally, I caught sight of Brendan's station wagon turning the corner and headed my way. As I reached down to grab my bag when I'd set it on the ground, the car rolled to a stop in front of me, the driver's side nearest to me rather than the passengers. The window rolled down and Brendan leaned up to greet me with a broad, warm smile.
Sorry for the wait, Rex. You mind hopping in the back seat?
Sure, no problem at all. I could not furrow my brow a bit, but I shrugged and opened the rear driver's side door to climb in. I knew full well what might happen when we were cooped up in the front seat together. His pheromones would trigger my feral senses, and I'd have to think up some distraction from it like I did the first time he gave me a ride. Maybe better for us not to tempt ourselves. Maybe. Oh. Hey. Hi. He turned in his seat to watch me climb in the car. A small frown settled onto his face as his eyes darted from me to Brendan and back again. There was a tablet resting on his lap, one earbud tucked into one of his ears. I shut the car door and set my bag onto my own lap, looking from one bison to the other.
So, Cameron, this is Rex. He's one of the students I'm mentoring this semester. Rex, this is Cameron, my son.
Nice to meet you. He was looking at me, curiosity plain on his face. I did my best to avoid too much eye contact. Camille and Connor was cool with it, and so was Brendan, though he was older and in a position of authority, so it didn't really matter. But I didn't want to be rude or end up scaring the younger herbivore. Same, it's nice to meet you, Cameron. So this was who Brendan mentioned the day before. This was Brendan's son. As the car rumbled into motion again, I shifted in my seat. As Brendan focused his attention towards where he was driving, I cleared my throat. Then I gave Cameron a curious look in return. I'd see the resemblance for sure. The younger bison pretty much looked like a miniature version of his dad. I wasn't expecting him to be that young, though. Then again, I don't know what I've been expecting. I'd feel an uncomfortable prickling in the back of my scalp as I tried to think of something to say. Fortunately, Cameron seemed to take my glances as a cue to strike up some conversation, only to break the awkward silence. How long have you been getting rides from Dad? Well, semester just started this week, so since Monday? Oh, cool. You realize you're going to be riding along too. If I'd known, I could have just walked.
Nonsense, Rex. You're always welcome to a ride. Although I probably shouldn't have sprung this on you out of the blue.
He let out this sheepish laugh, and then gave me an apologetic glance in the rearview mirror.
Cameron usually stays with some of his friends after school during the week, save for on Fridays.
Yes, when I hang out with Dad. Owen too, sometimes. So Owen knew Cameron as well. Huh, that'll explain that. It's just that Owen never rides home with us, so I was kind of surprised.
Yes, well, Rex's circumstances are a little different.
Yeah. Cameron turned his gaze over to me once more. A little probing. There's no tightening tension of anxiety in my shoulders under his scrutiny. Maybe I'm just getting used to being looked at. Are you a dragon? I just blinked in response to the sudden change in subject.
Cameron, you should know how rude asking those sort of questions is.
I didn't mean it like that, Dad. I just...
It doesn't matter how you meant it. You should apologise.
The younger bison huffed but nodded. Sorry, Rex. It's okay, I'm used to it. I gave him a nod and a reassuring smile. I guess I do look a little bit like a dragon, huh? Half dragon at least. The younger bison perked up at that. Are you? Half dragon? I opened my mouth, hesitated, closed it again and shrugged. With the way he's looking at me, all bright-eyed with his ear flicking, kind of didn't sit well with me to use that old excuse. Nope, not a dragon or a half-dragon. That looked like he'd taken the wind out of Cameron's sails a bit, but at the same time his brow furrowed with renewed curiosity. Iguana, then? I chuckled and shook my head. Nah. Komodo dragon? Nuh-uh. Cameron pouted, humming in thought. Maybe I was having a little too much fun keeping him guessing. It's better than just sitting in awkward silence the entire ride. Brendan let out a chuckle of his own, glancing over at his son, then to me in the rearview mirror.
Isn't it obvious? Rex is a different lizard.
His shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. Cameron just looked nonplussed at that. Was that some kind of joke I wasn't getting? Right. He rolled his eyes and gave me another apologetic smile. Sorry. Hey, like I said, it's fine. I couldn't hear anything with his earbuds plugged in. I could just catch a glimpse of the screen if I leaned over and forward a bit. Those shapes and patterns, and the gestures Cameron was making to move them around, looked pretty familiar. Cleared my throat and spoke up. Is that Puzzle Tower? Took a moment to respond. Looked like he was really concentrating on what he was doing. Oh yeah, the second one. Been working my way through it since it came out. Huh. I hadn't even known there was a second one. He turned in his seat to look back at me again, a tiny smile blooming on his face. You play it too?
Well, the first one.
With a quiet laugh, I held up my phone to let him see my own screen. Kind of stuck on the 12th level, like, I get what it wants me to do, I just don't know how it wants me to do it, you know? Oh, yeah. The younger bison grunted and nodded, his expression simultaneously sympathetic and irritated. That one's complete bullshit. I glanced over towards Brendan. It's really unfair. The older bison's ear flicked, but he didn't say anything. He just kept his eyes forward, watching the road. When Cameron's gaze met mine again, I could see a spark of excitement in his eyes. You want to help with it? I could give you some hints if you'd like. Sure, I'd really appreciate it. With that, I leaned forward so we could get a better view. Okay, so this is where I'm at. I know I need to move this part over here. Then I've got this over here getting in my way. How am I supposed to get it moved over to this area? Well, look over here. See this? Remember what you had to do to solve level 9? I mean, it's been a while, but yeah, I think I... Wait, you mean this? Because if I do this, then... And just like that, everything fell into place. Cameron continued to give me pointers as I started up the next level. He warned me it was pretty unfair, too. I saw what he meant as soon as it loaded. At the same time, it's fun having someone to talk with about it. I barely even noticed the time passing until Brendan turned in his seat, cleared his throat and gave me both a smile and a tap on the shoulder. We'd arrived at the lab complex. So I tucked my phone back into my pocket and grabbed my bag. I thanked both the older and the younger bison, Brendan for the ride and Cameron for the help. They both told me it was no trouble at all, the former with a rumbling laugh and the latter with a bright and beaming smile. Cameron even offered to continue giving me pointers next time we saw each other. Once I was done with the first puzzle tower, maybe we could work our way through the second one together. When I told him that sounded really good to me, his smile grew all the wider. I waved as I climbed up to the back of the car, and then again as it drove off. With that, I headed to the gate and made my way towards Dr. Abraham's house. Cameron was a good kid, really. I'd probably see a lot more of him if I continued hanging around with Brendan. To be honest, I couldn't help but really like the thought of that. And that brings us to the end of this episode of By Your Hands. So, there was another murder. Are they related? Maybe. But we'll probably find out about that in the future at some point. Currently, with this build I'm working on, we have one more day for Brendan, day 6, which I'll do sometime soonish. And then we'll have to wait for more to come out of that. And I'm not sure when that will be. So, I do follow all these on Itch.io, so I can keep an eye on how things are going. But yeah, there'll be more By Your Hands. And next weekend, we have more Spectrum of Hybrids. We're going back to see what's up with Jagger. And a few more things coming through as well. Obviously, more Moonfire Seekers Saga. We have more Echo coming back as well. So there's definitely a few things coming from the schedule. I might fit another one in somewhere along the line this month. We'll see how things go. But as always, I want to say thank you to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon, and especially my top patrons: Omar, Rafu, Spiderling, Smuto, Tiger Cub, Aramatarasu, Bulbusney Coffee, Addy Bear, Greylock, Lark Huskerton, Andy Peng, Aaron Fox, Bastian, Bieker, Brian Hall, Cobus Visser, Dissonance, Exac, Grizz, Harvest Mouse Productions, Adek Korval, Evan King, Kartek, Matt Kenya, and Mario Cervantes. So thanks for them, and thanks to you for watching. Until next week, when we return to Spectrum of Hybrids, bye for now.